if not the front door, try the back door. Better yet, build your own door. And she said that, and it so resonated with me. And I thought to myself, that's exactly what I need to be doing. I need to build my own door. I need to create my own job. I came to the realization that nobody was going to serve up the career of my dreams. One of the things I learned about myself is I don't like taking orders from other people. That's one of the things that I learned early on in the process.
Hey y'all, welcome back to Through with a Splash of Tea, podcast where conversation is key. I'm your host, Cass, and let's get right into it. Today's guest knows what it feels like to be staring down the demands of everyday life while sensing that there's more beyond the familiar. John Kaminski is a coach, a guide, and an advocate for those who are ready to break through from the autopilot careers and step into work that feels purposeful and aligns with who you uniquely are. In this episode, we'll explore how to recognize your hidden strengths, reframe your story, and begin building a career that doesn't just pay the bills, but actually reflects who you are. But first things first, I have to thank you, John, for being here today with us. I appreciate it.
Well, thank you for inviting me, Cass. I appreciate you in the show as well.
Of course. Okay. So I like all my guests to start at the very beginning. I want a little bit of background about who you are, because I do think that says a lot about who you are today, or who you were. That says a lot about who you are today. So give me a little bit about your background and tell me a little bit about your family dynamic.
Sure. So I grew up in a typical middle-class family. I'm one of 4 siblings, 4 children. I have older brother and sister and a younger sister, so I'm in second youngest. And my parents, from a very young age, I understood that my parents were sending us to college. They were saving money to send us to college. So I knew from a very young age, I was, supposed to do well in school and go to college and then get a career, go out into the world and get a career. And so that's how I grew up, with that mentality in my mind. And so I did. I went to school, went to college, and in my mind, as a kid, you're out playing in the neighborhood and you see the fathers all coming home 5:30, 6 o'clock in the evening from some job somewhere, you didn't know where. And then as I grew older into my teen years, it was they were working in corporate America. So I thought, well, that's what I'm supposed to do, go out and work in corporate America. So that's what I did when I graduated from college. And that was what I thought, I'm supposed to do. And so I did.
Wait. So first things first, you're from the Boston area, correct?
Yeah.
Originally? Yeah. Okay. And then...
Yeah, it doesn't show in my accent.
And then secondly, what did you go to college for?
Well, I ended up getting a degree in psychology. I didn't know when I first went to school, I had no idea. But then I thought, well, I'm curious about, how our human mind works and stuff. So for lack of anything better to do, I got a degree in psychology, but I'm glad that I did, because it has served me well in life, because that curiosity has remained with me. I'm still curious about how the human mind works, how we navigate our worlds, and everybody's different and unique. And so what makes us all so unique? So it's a subject that fascinates me. So as I'm out there in the world trying to climb the corporate ladder, and as the years are trickling by, I just came to realize that I wasn't experiencing what I thought I was going to be experiencing. That I didn't like what climbing the corporate ladder left me kind of with an empty feeling. Like the end of the day would come and I'd be driving home from work and I had an empty feeling. Like the roles that I had, the task that I was doing just wasn't doing enough it wasn't tapping into my natural skills and talents and abilities. Like I was being asked to do a series of tasks. And it felt like I was just doing a series of tasks, that they were hiring me for and I was being paid to do them. Great. Okay. That's fine. But I was hoping that I could, be able to do more, like think strategically in things, which I wasn't being asked to do. And it's so, as the years were going by, it seemed to me that, I thought that I was going to be promoted into roles where I would be able to utilize more of my skills and talents and abilities, but that wasn't happening. And so I became more, frustrated. And that empty feeling just, kind of grew in me. And, and so I remember many Sunday afternoons, not late in the day and Sunday, like 5 o'clock, 7 o'clock in the evenings, when that the weekend is winding down and the hours are getting short, and in a few short hours, it would be Monday morning and it's time for, the start of another work week. And so I'd get, late Sunday afternoon, early Sunday evening, I get a queasy feeling in the pit of my stomach, just knowing that, I had to work 5 more days at a career, at a job that just wasn't providing me any satisfaction, or less and less satisfaction. And so I felt trapped, like most people do, like most workers do. And I was one of those people. But I also knew that there were people who love their work, that love their jobs. I also knew I was not one of those people. And so I started thinking about, well, how do I become one of those people? How did they do it? Well, okay, education is one way. It hadn't worked for me yet. My education didn't lead me into something that I thought was, was going to be fulfilling for me. And so how do you do that? How do you get into a role like that? And one day,
wait, John, I want to pause you right there. Sure. This can happen to anybody, so it's not about the career that you were in, but I do want to clarify it for the audience and myself. What exactly were you doing at the time that didn't feel fulfilling?
It was. I started out working in a few different sales roles, and then that transitioned into business advisory service, management consulting work. Working with companies, which I liked, but it just wasn't. It wasn't fulfilling. It wasn't the roles and the positions that I really wanted to be doing. It was just working with companies, like in an interesting capacity to helping businesses. But it wasn't, as I say, it just
it wasn't extremely fulfilling, or it didn't feel.
It wasn't fulfilling. It just wasn't doing anything for me personally.
Let's get back to what happened when you were realizing what you need to do in order to figure out what would make you feel fulfilled. And to begin going down that path.
Yeah. So one day I came across completely by accident, a TED Talk by a woman, who she was telling her audience, she, was a live in person audience, but then us, on the video, watched it afterwards. She was encouraging us to disrupt ourselves, disrupt our lives, similar to the way businesses do. Businesses have to disrupt themselves because competitors are always coming at them, and they need to make sure they remain competitive. So they're constantly having to adapt and adjust. And so she was suggesting that we in our personal lives need to do the same thing, disrupt ourselves. And she said to basically walk away from what you're doing and start a whole new journey of, do something that nobody else is doing. And and these were her words exactly. She said, if not the front door, try the back door. Better yet, build your own door. And she said that, and it so resonated with me. And I thought to myself, that's exactly what I need to be doing. I need to build my own door. I need to create my own job. I came to the realization that nobody was going to serve up the career of my dreams. That if I wanted the career of my dreams, I was going to have to create it for myself. And so that's what, started me on this journey of like, okay, how do you build a career for yourself that you love from scratch? How do you figure all that out? So I started reading books and listening to podcasts and watching videos and just trying to get as much information as I could about, exploring this, career path and ourselves, getting back to psychology and how our minds work and just learning all these that I can about, how we navigate our lives. And so I've been on this journey, and it's led me to what I do now, which is helping other people do what the same journey that I'm on, which is, how they can create careers for themselves, and fulfilling careers that not only meet and exceed the financial obligations that we're all facing, but something that you really, really love to do, wake up and go do it every day. And, build a solid foundation of safety and security for you and your families. And so that's what I'm helping my clients do. Doing it in my own life and helping them as well.
Let's talk about the leap from exiting your 9-to-5 and diving into creating your own business. Because you were in your industry for, 30 years?
Yeah.
You were in your industry for 30 years. That's a long time.
Yeah, it took me a long time to figure out, it's a long time to figure out that, I knew that I was unhappy for a long time, years and years, but I didn't know how to, how do I extract myself from this malaise, that I'm feeling? And it took me a long time to figure it out. And it wasn't that I necessarily figured it out until I saw this TED Talk video. And, this woman prompted me hey, just, walk away from it. Well, which I did not do. But it got me thinking about, okay, how do you start a whole new career path? Something that you're not, I'm not on right now. How do you even begin to start that? And so, as I say, it started me on this journey of research, reading and listening to podcasts and trying to get my hands and my mind around anything that I could to help me in this process, help me in my journey.
What was the indicator that you were ready to do things on your own and start getting clients and really start cultivating a business on your own and closing that door of your past position?
Yeah, I knew that, as I say, I knew that I had it, no one was going to serve up the career of my dreams for me that that was something I'd need to create for myself. And I also, in going through this process, one of the things I learned about myself is I don't like taking orders from other people. That's one of the things that I learned early on in the process. And it's one of the things that I work with my clients on too, is some people like and need to work with other people on teams. Some people like to learn by themselves, work by themselves, and then figure some things out by themselves and then get with the team later. So that's all kind of figuring out how you work, how your mind works and stuff. What I figured out for myself was that I don't like taking orders from other people, and I don't like having, I've experienced in my life senior executives made decisions that I disagreed with, but I wasn't in a position to ignore the decision or do something different because, I wasn't senior enough. I was a junior person. So that triggered in me that I want to be in position making decisions. So that's, how do you do that? Well, start your own business, start your own company, start your own process, start your own enterprise. So that was a trigger for me that led me down the path of, okay, well, let's explore this a little further.
I want to tap on that a little bit because I love how specific you got with the things that you don't enjoy when it comes to the traditional corporate space. So I'm still in my 9-to-5 job. This isn't my job just yet. But I am in that headspace of dissecting the things that I don't really enjoy in the corporate space. And I've learned about myself that I really don't enjoy elements of being treated kind of like we're children when we're all adults. Sure. Like because I get it, because you need to keep people in line. So before that, you need structure. I get it. But I feel like there isn't a lot of treating adults like adults in the workspace. And I don't like that. And it can be like something as simple as like an email being passive aggressive, or like being told when to eat, or I'm just like, you guys, we're all adults in this space. Let's like try and act like we are. But a lot of the times it's not that. And I don't love that. Yeah, that's not a thing that I love. But so I completely understand.
So what I mean, people start businesses, whether it's a corporate business or a smaller company, and they're running their business, and they hire people, managers to help them run the businesses. And as I say, these people are making decisions, and those decisions aren't necessarily ones that you agree with. And so you just, surface one of the things that is irritating to many people out in industry and in the corporate world. And so the question becomes, well, okay, so you've identified something that you dislike in your work environment. And so that's a clue for you in what you're looking for and how you want to work, how you want to be treated. And so one of the things to do is to dig into that. Like, okay, so how do you like to be treated? How do you want to be treated? And what does that mean for you? And so obviously one of the options for you is to start your own company, but not everybody wants to start their own company. Not everybody wants to run their own business, and not everybody's cut out to run their own business. And so these are the kinds of things that you need to ask yourself, the kinds of questions, and figure out along the way. These are things that I figured out along the way for myself. And so, again, these are the kinds of things that I help my clients figure out in questions to answer. And so it's the whole process. You start putting these pieces together. It's like pieces of a puzzle. And so what does the picture look like? And as you add more and more of those elements, a picture begins to emerge for you and kind of leading you in certain directions. Mm-hmm.
So let's dive down the client experience for a little bit. So when a client comes to you and says, hey, John, I work for this company and I see the value in it, but I'm over it. Like, I don't want to be in the corporate space anymore, but I don't know how to get out of it. Like, what is the first thing that you tell them to do, or what do you say to them?
Well, so first thing, you need to begin to develop self-awareness. Most people lack self-awareness. They're just going about their lives, just their daily lives. It really, and this is what I learned in my life, in my journey, is I've done a lot of thinking about myself and how I fit into the world, how I fit into the work world, how I fit into, the world around me, my personal life, my friends, my family. And so you need to start developing some self-awareness about, the work world and anything else that you want to, that you integrate with. And one of the things that, I could make an invitation for you and your listeners is to become clear about your career vision. Like what is it that you envision for yourself? And right now that may be very blurry for yourself, but getting back to your question, what's the first thing? So one of the first things, and there's some, I do a diagnostic with my clients in the first place to help them start to build that self-awareness. And then it quickly transitions into starting to get clarity around, being crystal clear around what kind of career do you imagine for yourself, and start working towards that direction, building toward that, and answering more and more questions. That is this right? And the answers to those questions will either lead you closer to that or further away and in a different direction. And so the second piece to that would be what have you been doing? Like, what have you been working on? Like, what's been getting in your way? What's been an obstacle or a challenge that's been interfering with you coming to getting some of that clarity for yourself? And so let's work on overcoming that. And then the third piece is what would be the so I would introduce the most efficient way, the quickest, most efficient way of bridging the gap between where you currently are and where you'd like to go, where your vision for where you'd like to go is. So what's that gap? And let's bridge that gap. And so the invitation I make to your listeners is for the first 5 people who reach out and contact me at John Kaminski 102@gmail.com. I'll work with you and start working on those 3 answers, and start getting that clarity about where you want to go. And it doesn't necessarily mean that you would have to work for yourself or build your own business, because I say, not everybody wants to. You can do this process and work for somebody else, an employer. But what it does is it gives you clarity about the kinds of work that you'd want to do, what you're best suited for, what you're intrinsically motivated to do every day, and what value you bring to an employer. And then you can go out into the world and start finding those organizations, those enterprises, those businesses who are looking for someone with your kinds of skills and the kind of value you bring to them. So it's kind of reversing the role. Most people currently, the way they go about working, finding work is they look for who's hiring, right? Every companies post jobs, job openings, right? They're looking for such and such a position, an accountant or whatever it may be. And they say, well, I could do that. And they submit a resume. Well, my approach is kind of reimagining how people pursue careers. It's kind of flipping that on its head, where now you understand what it is you want to do. And now you're trying to match someone out there in the world who's looking for someone with your skills, your talent, your ability, and what you can bring to them. And when you find those people, then it's a matter of reaching out to them and saying, hey, this is what I do. This is the value I can bring to your organization. And then, that engages the interview process and then opens doors for you. So it's a whole process of either creating either way, it's creating a job for yourself, either working for yourself in your own business or working for somebody else, but knowing what it is that you want to do and then finding someone who wants to hire someone with your skills and talents and ability, and then marrying the two of you up. So,
do you think that you can be truly happy working for somebody else?
No, not at this point in my career. No, I'll never work for anybody else. I know that for a fact.
John, not you. Just people in the world.
Oh,
like other people.
I don't know.
That was
some people will. Yeah, some people will. Yeah.
I agree with that. I think that people can be happy working with, because there's people that are truly happy working at jobs.
Well, yeah. Well, as I say, not everybody wants to work for themselves. Not everybody wants to own their own business. And so they know that, hey, I want to work for somebody else. It's just, I want to find the right organization, the right people that match what I'm looking for, so that we can work synergistically together and work, smoothly every day in an integrated fashion.
What would you say is the biggest hurdle or hiccup for your clients when it comes to trying to direct them to find the job or the business that they're looking to create that would truly fulfill them. Is there something that like you often find to be like a hardship for your client?
Not necessarily a hardship. I think it's the courage to do it. I think the courage to walk away from the standard practice of pursuing careers like, going on, job posting sites or company websites and seeing what job is available. What people do, and I think this is so the Gallup organization, that the Gallup polls, the folks who do the Gallup polls.
I don't know the Gallup polls.
So they're a pollster organization and they do surveys. They constantly are surveying people.
Okay.
So they for years and years, they tell us that 80% of people either hate their jobs or are dissatisfied with their work. They're disengaged with their work. So disengaged meaning they're at work, they're on Facebook or they're on shopping on Amazon when they should be working, but they're totally disengaged, so they're doing something else. 80% of us. So that tells me that people go out into the work world, finding work that answering, replying to job postings, submitting their resumes for positions that are open, then they get hired. And like a year or two later, okay, so now you're making money and you're paying your bills. But all of a sudden it's like, well, I don't really enjoy what I'm doing. Well, okay. The reason you don't like what you're doing is because, you accepted a position that you can do rather than what you want to do. And a woman, I saw this one time, she phrased it beautifully the same way. She says, people do what's passable rather than what's possible. And it's the same thing, right?
Yeah.
And this is the trap that most of us fall into. I'm guilty of it myself. That's what happened to me in my life.
Yeah.
As I said, I graduated from school and went out, got a job that I could do. Turns out that it got me on a career path that I could do, but I just wasn't happy doing it. And I think that's what happens to the great many of us. And so, as I say, I'm trying to reimagine how we all pursue our careers. Let's think about it differently. And particularly in these times where, these uncertain times where we're all feeling angst and anxiety, where the world is changing so rapidly, right? We've got artificial intelligence and robots where I'm doing more and more of the work. And there are some very knowledgeable people I saw online where Bill Gates is one of the people that thinks this, that in a few years, these machines are going to be doing the work. And human beings aren't going to have any work to do because these machines are doing more and more of the work. I don't necessarily agree with that, but these are very smart people who are a lot smarter than I am, who feel that way. And so the question then becomes, what do we human beings do? If the machines are doing all the work, what do we do? How do we make a living? And so what I'm proposing, a way that I'm proposing is figuring out what value you bring as a human being to the world, to the work world, and how we can make money at it. And so that's what I do with my clients is let's figure out what you love to do. Let's figure out how to commercialize it. How do you make money doing it? And let's get you start doing it and getting out in the world doing it. But it's a different way of thinking. And so getting back to your question, it's hard for people to overcome the traditional way that they go about finding work and thinking about finding work and adopting a new way or adapting to a new way of finding work. So I think that's their biggest hurdle.
So would you say that that is what you have found your passion to be, is to assist others in finding their path? Or are you still on your path and you're like, hey, let me just help other people on their path while I still figure things out?
Well, no, I've figured this out for myself, and I want to share what I've learned with other people, with my clients. And it's the path that I'm on. That's my life's work. I like helping other people, and it's the best value, the best way I can help other people is share with them things that I've learned about with my life that I think can be beneficial to them and help them immensely in their lives. I know it's helping me. So,
have you gotten any tough pushback when it comes to clients, when it comes to like your help, whether they're feeling uncomfortable or like, I don't feel as though I can do this. I don't like, where their fear is just leading.
Yeah, I think initially there is that anxiety because it's a different way of thinking. Some people are ready for it and they jump in with both feet. Yeah, let's go. And then other folks are, a little more with a little more trepidation. Because it's a big step. It's a big leap for folks. All right, like the whole notion of, okay, at some point you're going to have to walk away from what you're doing. And the security of that steady income. Now, it's steady for right now, but in this uncertain world, who knows when, you're going to get tapped on the shoulder and say, hey, we're making a decision here in the organization that affects your role and the position you're in, and it's time for you to go. And so you don't want to find yourself, what I'm proposing is you don't want to find yourself where you're being, transitioned out of a role, either, call it what you will, terminated, fired, laid off, call it what you will, but, companies are separating themselves from employees. I just saw, I think Microsoft is letting go 3,000 workers, I think was either last week or earlier this week or so. So this stuff is happening every day. Thousands of people are losing their jobs. The government earlier this year, has let go tens of thousands of people. Workers who thought they had a career for the rest of their lives to retirement, now they don't. You don't want to find yourself in that position where now all of a sudden, oh my God, I got to go out and find a job real quick because I don't have any money coming in. Now that puts you right back where you were, and the prospect of accepting a job that you're ultimately not going to be happy with just because you need money. So start thinking about this now and then transition towards what you really want to be doing. Maybe you can start a side hustle doing what you really like to do on weekends and weekends and during the evenings, and slowly transition. Or maybe you just want to take the big leap and go do it. It's a little more risky, but there's ways of going about doing it.
What would you say to somebody, because this is the largest hurdle I feel like most people have, is the time thing. Like, I'm a mom, I have 2 kids, I've been in this industry for 10 years. Though I'm not happy, I have no time. You want me to do weekends and evenings? Those are the only times I have with my kids. Like, there's no way I can make time, which you and I mean, we're not moms with children, but we both know it's capable. It can happen.
Sure, yeah.
So what do you say to somebody like that?
And it does happen. Well, it's understandable. It's a challenge that mothers with children, particularly young children, are confronted with. And it's a valid concern, and I can't make the decision for them. But one of the ways that I can work with people, and it gets really deep into this, but there's a methodology that frees up time. And it's too complicated to get into here, but it's really advanced, and there is a methodology for bridging the gap. But it is a hurdle for someone to overcome, a challenge to overcome. And whether that woman needs to put off making a decision like this until their children were grown and independent, maybe out of school entirely. That's not a decision for me to make for them. But there are ways of getting around that. It depends on what's most important to you. Obviously their children are the most important, most critical in their lives. The question then becomes how important is your ability to provide for them? Where does that fit in the list of priorities for you? Obviously it's comes in at, second to your children, but is it significant enough that you're willing to accept something like this, a career transition, while you're nurturing your children? That's something that, I work with clients but yeah, it's a significant challenge, a significant hurdle, but it can be done. And there are women who are doing it.
And I think that that's helpful for people to keep in mind as well. I know it feels so difficult, but it can be done because we know that there are women doing it.
And there are women doing it, and they're high performing women. They're successful women making a lot of money doing it, but it can be done. Yeah. It can be done. And as you say, it's comforting to know that it can be done, but granted, it's a hurdle. It's an obstacle to overcome for folks.
Yeah. Let's talk about community for a little bit, because you were in your industry for a long period of time, like we said, about 30 years. And that creates such a community. Like your work people, we see them all the time. Yep. So exiting that, exiting that space and not necessarily having to leave your community behind, but it's just something that sometimes happens. Majority, we don't talk to everybody that you used to work with. So how was that transition going from a space where you had such a community to a space where it's okay, well, it's me and my clients and the community that I decide to transition over?
Well, it's, as I say, it doesn't, if community is important to you, and that's one of the things that you learn as you go through this journey, it's one of the things you need to identify for yourself. Do you need a community such as that? If you do, then it's probably, you would probably lean towards remaining in some kind of corporate role, or it doesn't necessarily need to be a corporate role, but at least a business where you're working with a team of, how many people do you need to feel comfortable in your community? Is it 10 people? Is it a dozen people? Is it 24 people? I don't know. Those are the kinds of things you need to figure out for yourself. And those are the kinds of things we would figure out as we move through the process. So, those are all the issues that you need to get clarity around, and you do as you work your way through the process.
So these are conversations you're already having with yourself as you're going through the journey of figuring out, hey, am I somebody that is interested in creating a business or finding a business that's good for me? Yeah,
early on, these are the kinds of questions that you need to get answers around, because this is going to help guide you in the direction of where you're going to be heading. So, I'm someone who likes to work by myself. It sounds like you may be someone who needs community around you. And that's important for you to know, because it's going to inform the kinds of opportunities and kinds of roles that you're going to seek out. As I say, it might be more difficult for someone who needs community around them to transition to working by themselves. Or if they do, to make sure that they stay connected to a community. Now, it could be that community could come outside of work. Maybe it's some kind of social group that they belong to, and so after work, they go towards that community. And those are all kinds of things that you need to figure out, and where they're at and where you need to connect with them at. Is it at work? Is outside of work sufficient? Again, these are all answers that you need to arrive at, and you will.
How long does this process typically take for you and your client before you have them in a position where that they actually either love or in starting their own business?
Well, it's so my initial program is a 6 months program. So in 6 months, you'll have clarity. You'd have clarity sooner than 6 months. Within like 6 weeks, I would have clarity. But then the remainder of the time is working towards in building out like, okay, let's put the plan in place where how you're going to make that happen. And so that's the bulk of the work that does. Figuring out what you want to do is the shorter part. Putting the plan in place and then executing on that plan is the longer part.
Do you feel fulfilled now?
Oh, yeah. I am. Yeah. I'm doing exactly what I love to do.
I love that. Okay, John, how can people let the people know how they can reach out to you if they just want to talk or if they want your guidance and to enter your program?
Sure. So I can be reached at John Kaminski. That's JohnKaminski 102 And in the subject line of the email, put the title of this the podcast
Through with a Splash of Tea podcast.
Through with a Splash of Tea into the subject line of the email, and that will inform me that you found me through Cass's podcast. And like I said, I'll be happy to support your community, your listeners, and their journey, and figuring out what's their best opportunity, their best work experience opportunity for them is, and start the journey for yourself, either whether that's immediately or something that's more down the road. Be happy to support your community, your listeners.
John, do you offer virtual, or do people have to meet with you in person?
Yeah, I work virtually. Yeah, most of my clients are outside of the Boston area here, so yeah.
Yay. Okay, that's amazing, because I feel like most of my viewers are outside of the Boston area. But anyways, I want to get into my last question. Sure. So I always ask people this question at the end, so no pressure, but your answer better be good. Okay, so I created this platform so people could learn. Like, I'm really big into knowledge. I think it'll change the world. So I created this platform so people could learn. And I want to know from you, what is one thing that you wish more people knew? And it could be in regards to what you do or the world or anything. But what's something that you wish more people knew?
Well, I too love to learn. And I think we've touched on it briefly already. And that is the world and the world of work is accelerating at such a rapid pace, and it's only getting more and more, accelerated and ramped up, and that's not going to change, right? And it's created a lot of anxiety in the world. People are anxious. We see it in our politics. We see it in the work world. It's an uncertain time. We don't know what's going to be happening. And the people who are going to succeed are those people who can adapt to this changing world of work that's happening all around us. And people who are unable to adapt or unwilling to adapt are going to find themselves struggling, because life is all about change, right? Look at history. Look at 10 years ago, 15 years ago, 20 years ago, how different the world is today than it was 20 years ago. We had cell phones 20 years ago. They weren't smartphones. Now they're smartphones, and everyone's on their smartphones. So the world is so different today, and it's going to you can only imagine how different the world is going to be 5 years from now, 10 years from now, 20 years from now. I heard recently, within the last 6 months, regarding artificial intelligence, the artificial intelligent models that are present right now, in 2 years, they're going to be 100 times more powerful. And in 5 years, they're going to be 1,000 times more powerful. I cannot even get my mind around what is 1,000 times more powerful than what's currently available. What does that even look like? How does that impact me in my world, my work world, my career? I can't even imagine that. So going back to your question, we need to be able to, we can't anticipate the change that's going to come at us. We have to, begin to prepare ourselves for us and make sure that we're as adaptable as we can possibly be. And so that my work with my clients helps people become adaptable so that they can take ownership of their careers, and no matter what happens to them, whether they're transitioned out of a role that they're currently in, it builds you confidence and knowledge that you can make it on your own. You're in charge and in control of your career, and that one way or another, you're going to be just fine.
That was so good. You hit the nail on the head with that one. Because this world is not even just the world. So many things are always evolving. We're supposed to be evolving. But we need to roll into the evolution, or you just stand there planted, you're going to get left behind.
Yeah, and people are, right? People are. There are people who are dug in. They don't want to change. They want to go back to what they're used to and what they're comfortable with. And those people are going to suffer. They're going to suffer. You know, you look at, people who get older in life and there aren't any roles for them in the work world anymore, and so, the people in their 50s and 60s struggling with what to do in life because, no one's looking to hire a 50-year-old or a 60-year-old, right? So it's like, what do those people do? Do you want to find yourself in a similar circumstance when you're in your 50s and you're in your 60s? I don't think that's what most people want to do, but that's kind of, if you read the tea leaves, that's kind of what's waits.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, John, thank you so much for coming today and talking to us and inspiring us all. I feel like I need to start another 2 businesses just after talking to you.
Thank you for having me, Cass. I really appreciate your invitation.
All right. Thank you for watching if you watched. Thank you for listening if you listened. You can catch Through with a Splash of Tea every Wednesday and Thursday on all streaming platforms, including YouTube. Bye now.